By the grace of Allah, by the grace of Allah, even the darkest night will end, and the sun will rise and shine. Even the darkest night will end, and the sun will rise and shine, and the sun will rise and shine.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Mursaleen. Amma ba'd, fa'awudhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. As-salatu wassalamu alayka ya Rasulullah, wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Habiballah. As-salatu wassalamu alayka ya Nabiyallah, wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Nurallah. Viewers of Madani Channel, welcome to the early morning show, Rise and Shine. Viewers of Madani Channel, as you know that when you watch Rise and Shine, we always begin by giving you a blessing of reciting Durud Pak upon the Prophet of Allah sallallahu ta'ala wasallam. And with that in mind, the Prophet of Allah sallallahu ta'ala wasallam is reported to have said, "Indeed, Allah has assigned an angel at my grave, who has been given the power to listen to all of creation's voices. Thus, until the day of judgment, whoever sends salat on me, the angel will present to me that person's name and his father's name, that so-and-so, son of so-and-so, has said salat upon you." Allahu Akbar. So whenever we send Durud Pak upon the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then inshaAllah azza wa jal, the beloved of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is hearing us, he's aware of us, he's aware of the fact that we have sent it, and he's our name and also the name of our father as well. And what a great gift that is, that our names and our father's name are presented in the court of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So please make a habit of reciting Durud Pak upon the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We give you these blessings on a daily basis so that you become habitual in reciting Durud Pak, number one. And number two, you pass on these blessings to other people as well, so that hopefully as a result of you passing on these blessings to other people, those other people become habitual as well. So please make it part of your daily routine to set aside some time during the day, be it whilst you're traveling to work, be it when you're coming home from work, whatever the state is, that you use that time in reciting Durud Pak, because who knows that one extra Durud Pak that you recite today might make all the difference on the day of judgment. Allah. Viewers of Madani Channel, as you know that after blessings of Durud Pak on Rise and Shine, we have the privilege and honor to listen to some verses of the Holy Quran. Let's now go and listen to some verses of the Holy Quran. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد صدق الله العظيم.
Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Viewers of Madani Channel, even though it's only a short ayat of the Quran, Surah Ikhlas, but just listen to the Quran. Whenever you get the opportunity to listen to the Quran, just close your eyes. Close your eyes and listen to the Quran, and it'll kind of like, you get this relaxation in your body and you get this spiritual uplift as well. So please, whenever the Quran does come on, then please, a lot of people, what they do is they turn the sound down, or they use that time to go make a cup of tea or to have some other breakfast or whatever it is. But for them few moments that the tilawat has been recited, that the Quran has been recited, then please just close your eyes and concentrate on the recitation. And inshaAllah azza wa jal, you'll see the benefits. And also try and make a habit of reciting the Quran on a daily basis. So not only yourself, but also as a whole family. If you sit down, and we mentioned it many times, and we'll continue to mention it, that if you sit down as a family, 3 verses of the Quran, translation and commentary, inshaAllah azza wa jal, you, your family, and everybody will benefit from it as well. We're talking about none other than Sayyiduna Bilal radiallahu ta'ala. What a great companion he was, what a great muazzin of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam he was. Insha'Allah azza wa jal, in today's program, we're going to learn a little bit about his life, a little bit about his steadfastness on the deen, a little bit about his patience, a little bit about his love for the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So inshallah, hopefully, and this is the reason why we talk about these people, is that We feel that as Muslims, generally speaking, when I say generally speaking, I'm not speaking obviously for everybody, but generally speaking, we're not aware of our rich heritage. We're not aware of our great personalities of the past, these true role models that we need to look up to. So inshallah, we're going to talk about one of those great models, Sayyidina Hazrat Bilal radiallahu anhu. But before we begin properly, let's go to the kalam of the day, inshallah. I'm hoping that this will also give us a spiritual uplift, inshallah. And then after the kalam, we'll continue with this topic. Sallu ala al-Habib, sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Salli ala nabiyyina, salli ala Muhammadin, salli ala shafiyyina, salli ala یا رب سوئے مدینہ مستانہ بن کے جاؤں، یا رب سوئے مدینہ مستانہ بن کے جاؤں، اس شمع دو جگہ کا پروانہ بن کے جاؤں، یا رب سوئے مدینہ مستانہ بن کے جاؤں، اس شمع دو جگہ کا پروانہ بن کے جاؤں، یا رب سوئے مدینہ۔ ان کے سوا کسی کی دل میں نہ آرزو ہو، ان کے سوا کسی کی دل میں نہ آرزو ہو، ان کے سوا کسی کی دل میں نہ آرزو ہو، ان کے سوا کسی کی دل میں نہ آرزو ہو، ان کے سوا کسی کی دل میں نہ آرزو ہو، ان کے سوا کسی کی دل میں نہ آرزو ہو، دنیا کی ہر طلب سے بیگانہ بن کے جاؤں، دنیا کی ہر طلب سے بیگانہ بن کے جاؤں، اس شمع دو جگہ کا پروانہ بن کے جاؤں، یا رب سوئے مدینہ مستانہ بن کے جاؤں، اس شمع دو جگہ کا پروانہ بن کے جاؤں، یا رب سوئے مدینہ۔ پہنچوں مدینے کاش میں اس بے خودی کے ساتھ، روتا پھروں گلی گلی دیوانگی کے ساتھ، جو ہی نگاہ گنبد خضرا کو چوم لے، قربان میری جان ہو بالادگی کے ساتھ، قربان میری جان ہو بالادگی کے ساتھ، مجھ کو بقیع پاک میں دو گز زمین ملے، مجھ کو بقیع پاک میں دو گز زمین ملے، یا رب دعا ہے تجھ سے میری عاجزی کے ساتھ، یا رب دعا ہے تجھ سے میری عاجزی کے ساتھ، یا رب سوئے مدینہ مستانہ بن کے جاؤں، اس شمع دو جگہ کا پروانہ بن کے جاؤں، یا رب سوئے مدینہ۔ بغزاد اپنا عالم سمجھے گا کیا زمانہ، 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 ہے عشق کا تقاضا دیوانہ بن کے جاؤں، ہے عشق کا तकाज़ा दीवाना बन के जाऊं उस शम्ए दो जहां का परवाना बन के जाऊं या रब सुए मदीना मस्ताना बन के जाऊं उस शम्ए दो जहां का परवाना बन के जाऊं उस शम्ए दो जहां का परवाना बन के जाऊं।
Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Viewers of Madani Channel, I hope that you enjoyed that kalam as much as we did here in the studio as well. It gives you that uplift in the beginning of the day. Listen to the verses of the Holy Quran, listen to the kalam. And these kalams, viewers of Madani Channel, we mentioned it before, they are there to increase our love for the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and anything that's connected to the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, be it the city of Medina, be it the Sunnah, be it the Ahl Bayt, anything that is connected to the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam or the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself, it is there to generate the love in him, and that is part of our iman, that we should love the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And today, viewers of the channel, we're going to talk about one of those true lovers of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that were willing to sacrifice their life for the deen of Islam, for the sake of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, none other than Sayyiduna Bilal radiyallahu ta'ala. And it's stated, viewers of the channel, that one day Urwa bin Zubair radiyallahu ta'ala narrates the following from his father, who was the paternal cousin of Sayyiduna Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala, that he had passed by Sayyiduna Bilal radiyallahu ta'ala whilst he was being beaten due to having accepted Islam. And even in this state, he was saying Ahad, Ahad, meaning Allah is one, Allah is one. And when this Warqa bin Nawafil saw this and said to him, Bilal, continue to mention the name of Allah Azza wa Jal. He then addressed Umayr bin Khalaf, the individual who was beating Sayyidina Bilal radiyallahu ta'ala, and he said to him, I swear by Allah Azza wa Jal, if you martyr him because of this, I will make his shrine to attain mercy and blessings. Allahu Akbar. And many of us will be aware of the fact that Sayyidina Bilal radiyallahu ta'ala, that he was a slave and he accepted Islam whilst he was a slave. And because he accepted Islam and gone across his master, effectively gone against his master's wishes, then his master began to punish him every day. And his master would lie him down on the ground in the heat and they would punish him daily. And one day when the leader of the believers, Sayyidina Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq radiyallahu anhu, passed by Sayyidina Bilal radiyallahu anhu, and those people were treating him in the same manner, that he was being punished in the same manner. The leader of the believers, Sayyidina Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq radiyallahu anhu, he addressed Umayr bin Khalaf, and he said to him, do you not fear Allah Azza wa Jal regarding the matter of this poor individual? How long will you continue to torture him? And Umayr responded, you have spoilt him. Save him from this pain that you observe. And hence the leader of the believers, Sayyidina Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq, said to him, I have slaves who are healthier and stronger than Bilal. Give me Bilal and take them. He responded, I accept. And as a result, the leader of the believers, Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala, gave Umayr a slave, and he took Sayyidina Bilal radiyallahu ta'ala and set him free. Allahu Akbar. This, views of the channel, is just some of the difficulties that Sayyidina Hazrat Bilal radiyallahu ta'ala, he withstood to stand up for truth and to neglect falsehood. And we see from this that even from his life, we realize that if you lose everything and you still stand for the truth, then that's what we should do. We should have these principles in our life, viewers of the channel, that no matter what happens, that we stand for haqq, we stand for the truth. And we see that the companions of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that when they were being punished, when they were being persecuted, when they possibly could lose their lives, and some of them did lose their lives, some of them were martyred, not only in the battlefields, but were martyred as well by standing by the tenets of Islam. And when you think about this, viewers of the channel, and you look at ourselves nowadays, that what sacrifices are we making for the deen? What sacrifices are we willing to make for the deen? Are we willing to stand up for haqq and truth? When it comes to our workplace, and this is what the example that was coming to my mind, that whenever we're at work and the time for namaz happens, then what do? We're afraid. We're afraid to read our namaz. We're afraid to go off and find a place to read our namaz. What will people say? Allah. What will Allah say? Is that the reason that you miss your namaz? That you didn't have that much courage inside you to stand up and find a place to read your namaz? You're traveling on the way. And you realize that namaz time is going. So you need to stop at a service station to read your namaz, even if you have to read it in the car park. Why are we not doing it? Are we not willing to make that much sacrifice? Oh, it's raining. Okay, it's raining. Still read your namaz. If you're a musafir, it'll be short namaz anyway. But read your namaz. We're not willing to make these kind of sacrifices. And we see from Sayyiduna Bilal radiallahu anhu that he remained steadfast upon Islam with sincerity and determination until his final breath, viewers of Madani Channel. And he risked his life in the way of Allah Azza wa Jal without impeding his steadfastness in the slightest. And after accepting Islam, viewers of Madani Channel, and after he was freed, he never once complained. He never complained about anything despite having experienced a life of oppression. And those people who express love for the companions and yet end up creating a scene upon merely receiving a scratch on their hands should take a lesson from this. That these people, whatever happened to their lives, one, they were steadfast. Two, they never complained. And three, they were thankful in the court of Allah Azza wa Jalla that they were blessed with this iman. For them, having the gift of iman was the greatest gift that they had. And they were willing to sacrifice anything for it. And whatever they endured as a result of that, they didn't complain about it. They didn't say, oh, that because I had to read namaz in the cold, I got in the rain, I got a cold. No, they read the namaz, they didn't miss the namaz. And these early Muslims, those early people who accepted Islam, the persecution that they went through, we cannot even imagine, viewers of Madani Channel. We cannot even imagine the sacrifices that they made, the oppression that they felt, the punishment that some of them took. Why? For the sake of Islam. With regards to Sayyidina Hazrat Bilal radiallahu anhu, I just want to give you a brief introduction of who he actually is. Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anhu, he was a slave of the Banu Juma tribe. And his name was Bilal, and his father's name was Rabah, and his mother's name was Hamama. His kunya, Abu Abdullah, Abu Abdul Karim, Abu Abdul Rahman, and Abu Amr. And he was famous by the title of Muazzin al-Rasul, and Sayyidul Muazzin, i.e. the leader of those who give azan. And in this regard, the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Bilal is a good person and the leader of those who give azan. He is classed amongst those fortunate people who accepted Islam at an early stage. He was amongst the first people to accept Islam. And Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anhu, he would worship Allah Azza wa Jal in solitude. He was a man of virtue and generosity. And he was the slave of the leader of the believers, Sayyidina Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu. And Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anhu, he was persecuted greatly because of having accepted Islam. And he was the Prophet's treasurer, Allahu Akbar. And he loved the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he would take the lead in performing good deeds. He had utmost reliance and belief in Allah Azza wa Jal, and he was sincere in his belief in Islam, and he had a pure heart. And it stated that when the heat would intensify in the afternoon, Umayyah bin Khalaf would bring him out, lay him on his back on the sandy grounds of Makkah, and he would call a boulder. And he'd put this boulder on his chest. So he's lying in the heat of the sands of Makkah Sharif. Yeah? And they would put this boulder on his chest. And despite being a victim of this tremendous suffering, he would continue to proclaim, Ahad, Ahad, Allah is one, Allah is one. Viewers of Madani Channel, just to give you some sort of an idea, if any of you have been blessed with going and visiting the city of Medina, going and performing Umrah in the city of Makkah, then when it gets hot, and you leave your hotel room and you can see Masjid in front of you, you can see Masjid al-Nabi in front of you, because of the heat, people run. They run there. Yeah? Even though they've got shoes on their feet, they run there because of the heat. Because they know that once they get inside the masjid, there's cool Zamzam water there, there's AC there, cooling systems are there, it's okay. And they run together. And has it ever happened to you? Maybe it's happened to you, that you've lost your shoes, you've lost your chappals, you've lost your slippers, and you come out to the Haram Sharif, or you come out of Masjid al-Nabi and you've got no slippers on you. And it's the marble tiles are there. It's the hot ground is there. Whether it's marble or whether it's concrete, it's hot. And you're looking for a shop that sells slippers. and you want to run there, and you run there as fast as you can, and as soon as you get there, you're jumping up and down on your feet because your feet are burning now, yeah? Your feet are now burning because you've just walked this 100 yards in the heat. You've walked this 200 yards in the feet, and the soles of your feet are now burning. And you're thankful that all of a sudden you've got these slippers and you put them on your feet to protect your feet. And then when you get back to the hotel room, you take your slippers off and the blisters are on your feet, and you're soothing your feet, and you're putting creams on your feet to cool you down, and you're putting your feet under the water to cool them down. Allahu Akbar. 200 yards. Soles of your feet. 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Imagine being laid down in that. No respite. And on top of that, once you're laid down, and so your back is touching that, not just the soles of your feet, all of your back, your shoulders, your back sides, all the back of your legs, the back of your calves, your heels are touching that heat. The pain, just imagine that pain. And then on top of that, a big boulder is put on your chest to push you down, because maybe when you're lying down, you might lift your back up and arch your back up. But now you've got this big boulder on your chest. The pain of the boulder on your chest. And then your back is now touching the ground completely in heat. Can you even imagine it? I can't. I can't imagine the pain that Sayyiduna Hazrat Bilal radiallahu anhu was enduring at that time. Why? Why was he enduring that pain? Because he was being punished. Why was he being punished? Because he accepted Islam. And he did not detract, and he continued to say, Ahad, Ahad, Allah is one, Allah is one, Allah is one. And no matter how much he was being punished, no matter how many scars were on his back through the whippings that he received, because he wasn't just laid down in the ground, he was whipped as well. He was punished in many ways as well. But even then, he never gave up. Two things come to my mind as I'm talking to you. One, how proud we should feel now. Yeah, we should all feel proud now that what a great personality is amongst the heritage of Islam. What a great personality is in our rich history. What a great personality we've had in the history of Islam. And the second thing that comes to my mind is that, what am I doing? In comparison to the sacrifice that he made for the deen, what sacrifices am I making? Amir al-Sunnat in the Madani Channel, he advises us to give at least 2 hours a day for the deen of Islam, to work for 2 hours of deen for Dawat Islami, to do some sort of Dawat Islami work, be it dars, be it Madani Halka, Baligan class, or whatever it is. And we find that so hard to just give 2 hours a day, less than 10% of the day, to the deen of Islam. We're not willing to make that sacrifice. Allahu Akbar. We haven't got time. And as I said before, unfortunately for a lot of us, Islam generally, let alone working for the deen of Islam, actually Islam generally has become a hobby. Yes. A hobby is something that you do when you got a bit of time. And a hobby is something that you start, you spend a lot of time on it, and then because you haven't got time, you put your hobby to one side, yeah, and then 6 months later you start it up again. And you see these people that have, for example, they have a hobby of restoring a car. So they'll start restoring a car, and for 3 or 4 weeks they'll work every day on it, 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day, and then what will happen is they'll put a sheet over the car, and the car won't be touched for months and months and months. And then months later they'll take it off, have a look at it, and they'll put the sheet back on again. And then months later they might take the sheet off and start working on it again. And unfortunately our deen has become like that. That we go through those periods where 3 or 4 months we're reading our namaz, we're reading the Quran, and then all of a sudden we've not got time, so we put a sheet over it. We put a sheet over our deen. And 3 or 4 months later, something in our heart says, you know what? You should be reading your namaz. So you lift the sheet off and think, nah, later. And then 3 or 4 months later, something will happen, you start again. Islam is not a hobby, viewers of Madani Channel. Islam should be part of our life. People's lives, yet the hobby revolves around the life. Yeah? That when you've got time, you do your hobby. But for us viewers of Madani Channel, our deen, life should revolve around our deen. We shouldn't find time for our in the same way that you find time for your hobbies, with your deen you should find time for your life. that your life should be around them 5 daily namaz. Your daily routine should be around that. You know that you have to get up for Fajr. You know that I have to read Salatul Isha. So your sleeping time should be around that times. You know that you have to perform Salatul Zuhr. So your lunch should be around that time. You know that you have to perform Salatul Asr. So you need to have a break at that time. Salatul Maghrib, Salatul Isha, you need to put time aside for them and make sure that if someone says to you, look, we're going to meet at such and such place. Sorry, brother, it's Salatul Maghrib at that time. We'll meet a little bit later. I need to read my Maghrib first and then we'll meet. And we need to make this routine in our lives, viewers of Madani Channel. If we cannot even make that much of a sacrifice in our life, to have a routine in our life, then on the day of judgment, just think to yourself, viewers of Madani Channel, what face will you show to the likes of Sayyiduna Bilal radiallahu ta'ala? What face will you show to the likes of the martyrs of Badr, martyrs of Uhud? What face will you show to the martyrs of Karbala, viewers of Madani Channel, on the day of judgment? That you could not even get up for namaz, and namaz was a hobby. You did it when you had a bit of time. You did it when you felt a bit guilty. And it's sad, viewers of Madani Channel, that as Muslims, we don't read our namaz. And it's just mind-boggling. It's just that all of a sudden on a Friday, you see it on a Friday and you go to the masjid on a Friday and you're happy. You're happy because you see all these people. But you're also unhappy because you've not seen these people for a full week. And you go on the Eid namaz and you're happy. But you're also unhappy that there's certain people that you've not seen for the whole year. Since last Eid, you've not seen them. A masjid is not for just Friday. A masjid is not just for the Eids, viewers of Madani Channel. A masjid is there 5 times a day. Me, you, all of us. Thinking about the sacrifices that Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu ta'ala made. Thinking about the sacrifices that were made by the Muslims on the Battle of Badr, the Battle of Uhud, the Battle of the Trench, and all the other battles that took place, the battlefield of Karbala, the sacrifices that these companions made by traveling in the way of Allah Azza wa Jalla. Put that all in your forefront of your mind and think to yourself, shouldn't I be reading my namaz? Shouldn't I be going to them? And I'm talking to myself here as well. I'm talking to you and I'm talking to myself that myself, shouldn't I be sacrificing more? Shouldn't I be giving time more? If I look at their lives, then I'm doing nothing. And without doubt, none of us are doing what they did. But at least we can aspire to be like them. At least we can try and follow in their footsteps. Rather than it being a hobby and when we've got a bit of time, we'll do it. And you see these individuals that they're very emotional. They do a lot of work for the deen for a month or 2 months and then they disappear. But we need to have steadfastness in our lives. And our lives, we're here once. We need to make the most of it and make sure that we do what we should be doing and not do what we shouldn't be doing. Because we mentioned many, many times, viewers of Madani Channel, we're going to enter that dark and lonely grave on our own. Reflect and think, viewers of Madani Channel. We're just now going to go to the reminder of the day. Let's go to the reminder of the day, inshaAllah Azza wa Jal. And when we come back, we'll continue with this topic. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
By the grace of Allah, by the grace of Allah, by the grace of Allah.
The biggest cancer in our society is backbiting. It is so destructive that not only does it destroy communities, but it tears down nations. The one who backbites against a Muslim has committed a far worse a sin than fornication. Backbiting can cause a faithless end. It brings torment in the grave. Backbiting destroys one's good deeds quicker than fire burns wood. My dear Islamic brothers, on the day of judgment, we will have to account for all the words that we have uttered. The Prophet ﷺ has stated that on the day of judgment, a person will have his book of deeds brought to him. He will utter, I did such and such good deeds. What has happened to them? He will be told that these deeds were wiped away due to backbiting that you had committed. Now, most mistakes are because of a slip of the tongue. With the tongue, one risks his hereafter by swearing, lying, backbiting and tale-telling. Either speak good or remain silent. My dear Islamic brothers, your Dawat Islami is here to enable you to rectify yourself and to overcome the disease of backbiting. It is a humble request that you attach yourself to the environment of Dawat Islami and safeguard your hereafter.
By the grace of Allah, by the grace of Allah, by the grace of Allah.
Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. MashaAllah, some beautiful Madani pearls there by Brother Ilyas, MashaAllah. And you know, a few of the sentences that he mentioned there made me really think and reflect as well. He said that you will be questioned about everything that you said on the day of judgment. And he said most of the problems occur by the slip of the tongue. And I remember, I think it's a story that I mentioned, I may have told you before, viewers on the channel, but there was a doctor I knew, and he was a homeopathic doctor. And he went to visit one of his friends that was in hospital. And it was an big open ward, a male ward. And this ward was for those people that had gastric problems, that were either having an operation or due to have an operation or recovering from an operation, etc., etc. And so he went to visit one of his friends in the hospital. And he visited him, and it was in a Muslim country, and all the people in that hospital were Muslims. And when he came out to the ward, he wanted to see the head doctor. And when he went to see the head doctor, he said to the head doctor that, "Can I ask you a question?" He said, "Yes." He said, "I'm a doctor, albeit a homeopathic doctor, not the same as yourself, a different field. However, there's a patient in here, you know, and I thought all the patients in here were patients because of some sort of gastric problems. But I've never seen a gastric problem affecting the speech." And the doctor said to him, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, my friend over there on such and such bed, the person next to him is also in here with a gastric problem, but I see that he's got a speech problem as well. How is it that his gastric problem is affecting his speech?" And he said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, he speaks like this, one word at a time." And the head doctor, he smiled. He said, "Don't worry, there's nothing wrong with his speech. There's nothing wrong with his speech, and his gastric problem is not affecting his speech." So the homeopathic doctor who would come as a visitor said to him, "Well, why is he speaking like that? Has he got some sort of other problems?" He said, "No, he's got no problems whatsoever." He said, "Then why?" He said, "We asked him, and this person said that I am afraid that on the day of judgment, I will be accountable for every single word that I speak. And because of that, I speak one word, pause, think. Speak another word, pause, think. Speak another word, pause, think." Oh, Allahu Akbar. What a mindset these people had. And it said that one of the companions of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that when people asked a question, he said that he wanted to answer the question so much. He had the thirst, he said it was equivalent to the thirst that you have, that you want to drink a glass of water. That was the thirst I had to give an answer to that question. But I was afraid that if I answer that question, I will add words that are useless talk. Allahu Akbar. Now the companions of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would not add useless talk. But what about us? What about our useless talk? What about our backbiting, as Brother Ilyas was mentioning? Do we even know what backbiting is? Do we know when we are backbiting? And one thing I would like to advise you at this moment, viewers on the channel, there's a beautiful book. And when you see the book, when you see the thickness of the book, then you will realize how serious the situation is. You know, when you open up a medical book and you go to the pages on, let's say, headaches or, I don't know, joint pains, then there'll be maybe that many pages, yeah? And when you go another illness, maybe a little bit more. With another illness, only a few pages. Depending on the severity of the illness, will basically give you an idea of how many pages it'll be about that, the symptoms, the ailments, the cures, etc., etc. Amir Sunnah has written a beautiful book, Backbiting, the Cancer of Society. And it is that thick, viewers on the channel. I cannot remember off memory how many pages, maybe 300 pages plus. But read that book. And as a family, like I said early on, if you sit down as a family and you recite the Quran for 7 minutes a day, then at the same time, 7-8 minutes of the day, just sit down as a family and read 3 or 4 pages of this book. And you will then understand what is backbiting. how serious backbiting is. Allahu Akbar. I'm sorry, viewers of Madani Channel. Once again, I've been distracted. May Allah forgive me, but I think it was important that we learn about backbiting and we learn what backbiting is. And before I go back to our topic of the day, what is backbiting if we were to define it? Backbiting, viewers of Madani Channel, is talking behind the back of a Muslim, that if that Muslim was there and he heard them words, it would hurt his. And even if them words are true, he's fat, he's tall, he's thin, yeah, his car's not very good, his clothes are not very good, his house is dirty, anything like that. You know, a wedding, you're eating the food and the food's too oily, it's too salty, it's too spicy, and you say these words, that is backbiting. And again, so many other instances. So we need to learn about this because backbiting is a sin, backbiting is punishable, backbiting can lead us to the hellfire. That's how serious it is, viewers of the channel. So we need to learn about this spiritual illness, this illness of our tongue and this spiritual illness that can affect us. Going back to Sayyidina Hazrat Bilal radiallahu ta'ala, it is stated, viewers of the channel, that in order to sway Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu ta'ala away from Islam, the non-Muslims, they would sometimes tie him up and they would hand him over to the children who would drag him through the streets of Makkah. You know, they'd like drag him through the streets and abuse him and torture him. These kids would torture him. But even then, he would never sway from Islam. And these again were the sacrifices that he made. But he made sacrifices, viewers of the channel. But he also was so steadfast in his ibadat. And that was again the amazing thing of these early companions, these pious people, that no matter what happened, they were so steadfast in their worshipping of Allah Azza wa Jal as well. And it's stated, viewers of Madani Channel, on the night of Miraj, the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he heard the sound of someone's footsteps in paradise. Allahu Akbar. He heard the sounds of someone's footsteps in paradise. And when he asked, who are these footsteps? Who is this sound? He was told that these are the footsteps of Sayyiduna Bilal radiallahu ta'ala. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. The beloved Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam heard the footsteps of his devotee in paradise. What can be the reason for this, viewers of the channel? Sayyidina Bilal states that the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam woke up one day and he said to Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu ta'ala, "O Bilal, what led you to paradise before me? When I entered paradise last night, I heard the sound of your footsteps ahead of me." Allahu Akbar. Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu ta'ala, he said, "O Messenger of Allah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam, after making wuzu, I always offer 2 units of nafil salah and I give the azan. And when my wuzu breaks, I perform it again straight away." And the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "This is the reason why I heard your footsteps in paradise before me." Allahu Akbar, viewers of Madani Channel. Sayyidina Bilal, the passion of offering nafil salah. And on the other hand, if we look at ourselves for our moment, and as I mentioned earlier, forget our nafil salah. Where is our namaz on a daily basis? Where is our namaz? And these, you know, he said that as soon as my wuzu would break, I would perform wuzu, and straight away I would offer 2 rakat nafil. Straight away I would offer 2 rakat nafil. Ask yourself, the nafil of Zuhr, the nafil of Maghrib, the nawafil of Isha, do we perform them? Do we even perform the sunnahs? Do we even perform the fard? And viewers of my channel, it's because of this that we have forgot the purpose of our lives. We forgot the purpose of our life. Our purpose of our life is not to live in this dunya to create a load of wealth. Our purpose in the life is to prepare ourselves for the hereafter, to worship Allah Azza wa Jal, to fulfill the commands that are being sent down to us, to forbid evil, to promote good, to help people to do good deeds and to do good deeds as well. And neglecting salah, viewers of the channel, will result in one having a terrifying punishment in the grave and in the plains of the resurrection as well. It is stated in Fatawa Razviya that after Iman and rectifying one's beliefs, the most important and greatest right from the rights of Allah Azza wa Jal is the performance of the salah. And as I was reading that out, a thought came to my mind, viewers of the channel, that literally every day and literally every other program, we're talking about salah. Because unfortunately, we're not performing it. And nowadays, in this situation that we're in now, if you go onto any website that talks about, that has the news, then we're talking about the virus. That the virus in this country, the virus in that country, the virus in that country, the virus. And nobody's complaining that why are we talking about this all the time? But when we talk about the namaz, which is more prevalent, is more widespread, there are more people affected around the world by the act of not performing salah than are by any virus, any other illness. The illness of not performing salah is so widespread, and it's increasing rather than decreasing. So when people talk about infection rates, when the people talk about these rates, think about the rate of the number of people that are not reading the namaz. Is that everybody ever withered you? Nowadays we're going and doing things to stop this virus. What are we doing to stop this situation? To rectify this situation? To create people that will encourage people to read the namaz. We encourage people to put these masks on. We encourage people to social distance. We encourage people to prevent this illness and that illness. But what about this illness? What are we doing, viewers of Madani Channel? What am I doing? What are you doing? First and foremost, sort this person out. Sort yourself out. I need to sort myself out. You need to sort yourself out. We need to sort ourselves out and read our namaz and make sure that we don't miss our namaz. Make an intention, and I've said it so many times, make an intention right now. Don't wait until Jummah, don't wait until Ramadan. Make an intention right now that I'm not going to miss my namaz. Today at Zohr, I will read my namaz. Today at Asr, I will read my namaz. Today at Maghrib, I will read my namaz. Today at Isha, I will read my namaz. Tomorrow morning, I will get up for Fajr, and I will continue with this routine, inshaAllah Azza wa Jal, for the rest of my life. No matter what. InshaAllah. Make this firm intention. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that on the day of judgment, viewers of Madani Channel, the faces of those who neglected salah will be the first to be disgraced, and verily in hell there is a valley known as Mulham. It contains snakes, and every snake is the size of a camel, and its length is a month's journey. When it will bite the one who neglects the salah, its poison will continue to intensify for 70 years, and then his flesh will melt and separate from his bones. And we fail to read our namaz. You know, we talk about the great Sayyiduna Bilal radiallahu anhu, and we hear that he performed nawafil. And I just want to give you a few hadiths of the benefits of performing nawafil, even though, if we're honest with ourselves, we're not even reading our namaz, are we? But with the intention of encouraging you to read the namaz and the intention of encouraging you to perform nawafil salah, I'm going to give you these hadiths. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that whoever offered 2 rakat of nafil in which he did not speak to himself, his past sins will be forgiven. Allahu Akbar. He who performs wuzu in a good manner and offers 2 rakat with the president of heart, paradise will become wajib for him. Allahu Akbar. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever performed wuzu in a good manner, then stood up and offered 2 or 4 rakat and performed the ruku and sujood with humility, and then sought forgiveness from Allah Azza wa Jal, then Allah Azza wa Jal will forgive him. But before we perform these nawafil views of the channel, we need to start reading our namaz. I cannot stress enough the importance of reading your namaz, and nothing should come in the way of our namaz. Our life should revolve around the daily namaz. Our alarm should be set on our phones for the daily namaz. Our routine should be set on our daily namaz. That if you have a diary, your diary should have these times in them every single day. If you've got meetings that you need to book in your diary, then make sure you've got the times in there that you're going to read your namaz, and you make sure that that time is not changed. Because you know what will happen is if you booked in, you put in your diary, Salatul Zuhr, 1:30, you'll get a phone call. Can we arrange a meeting with you? Yeah, no problem. What time? 1:30 is 1:30, all right? Yeah, okay, 1:30. Scribble that out. And you say, I'll try and fit it in later. What you should be doing is, 1:30, sorry, booked at 1:30, can we make it 2 o'clock? Yeah, that's fine. Okay, 2 o'clock's fine. Don't compromise. Don't miss your namaz. If only we can understand the importance of namaz views on this channel. And the reason why we're talking about these great personalities, Sayyidina Hazrat Bilal radiallahu ta'ala and other people, is so that we realize the sacrifices that they were willing to make to ensure that they perform these 5 daily namaz. So that knowledge, that importance of namaz, if it was not for them, it would have not got to us. We would be a nation now not reading our namaz. All of us. And unfortunately, that nation of not reading namaz is increasing, that more and more people are not reading namaz. So we need to do something about it. So at least, if you cannot be part of the cure, if you cannot be part of them people that are trying to resolve this situation, of people not reading the namaz, then don't be part of the problem. Make sure you're reading namaz. Viewers of my channel, we're just going to go to the hadith of the day. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
By the grace of Allah, by the grace of Allah, by the grace of Allah.
Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Insha'Allah Azza wa Jal, today I will mention to you a hadith regarding the 5 pillars of Islam and the importance of the 5 pillars of Islam. This hadith is narrated by Ibn Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. He says, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu ta'ala wasallam said, Buniya al-Islamu ala khamsin. The Islam is made up of 5 things. Shahadati an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Number 1, testifying that there is no God except Allah, and indeed Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam is his messenger. Wa iqamis salah. Number 2, establishing salah. Wa ita is zakah wal hajj. Number 3, performing zakat. And number 4, performing hajj. Wa sawmi ramadana. And number 5, fasting in Ramadan. And this hadith has been narrated in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. And this hadith in similar wordings has also been narrated by Hazrat Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, also in Bukhari and Muslim. Now in regards to the narrator, Ibn Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, his real name is Abdullah ibn Umar, and he is a very, very well-known narrator of hadith. In total, he has narrated up to 2,630 hadiths. Regarding the character of Ibn Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, Hazrat Aisha Siddiqa radiyallahu ta'ala anha said in regards to this that no one followed the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala wasallam in so much detail as much as Hazrat Ibn Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu followed the Prophet. And he was well known for one special characteristic, which was he used to do Qiyamul Layl a lot. I read namaz at night, establish salah at night a lot. Now moving on to the hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he is resembling the religion of Islam towards a roof and ceiling. And this roof and ceiling is held up in such a way by 5 things, 5 pillars. And what are them? The 5 pillars of Islam are Shahadat, Salah, Sawm, Hajj and Zakat. And this building is held up in such a way that if one of these 5 pillars are missing, then the full building will collapse. The same thing with your religion. If one of these 5 pillars are missing, you will exit the fold of Islam, or you won't enter into the fold of Islam. So that's why these 5 pillars are so important, and acting upon them is necessary. And now in regards to the 5 pillars, if someone wants to strengthen that structure and make it even more firm, then the same way with the pillars, if you want to make it more solid, the 5 pillars, if you act upon them and you do the things that are necessary for them, that building will be more firm and more stronger. Now in regards to all 5, number 1, shahadat, i.e. testifying, so you have iman. Number 2, iqam is salah. What does this mean? It means establishing salah and reading it correctly as well. It's not just reading it correctly as well. Number 3 and number 4 are linked because zakat and hajj are only necessary upon them people who meet the requirements. So whoever meets the requirement is necessary to fulfill this farz. If you don't meet the requirements, then it's not necessary. And the fast one, when the month of Ramadan comes, it's necessary to fast. And in regards to when these were made farz, salah was made farz before hijrat on the night of Miraj, and fasting and zakat were made farz in the 2nd year after hijrat, and hajj was made farz in the 9th year after hijrat. So I do dua to Allah Azza wa Jal that we all act upon these 5 pillars of Islam and we establish our religion as much as we can. Sallu ala al-Habib. Sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam.
By the grace of Allah, by the grace of Allah, by the grace of Allah.
Viewers of this channel, we're talking about Sayyidina Hazrat Bilal radiallahu ta'ala. And it's stated that Sayyidina Hazrat Bilal radiallahu ta'ala, he was such a great lover of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he could not tolerate anything, any disrespect at all of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, anything that dishonored his status, he couldn't take it as well. And he attained such a high rank and status and honor in this world because of the love that he had for the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it's stated that when Sayyidina Hazrat Bilal radiallahu anhu was about to leave this world, when the soul of Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anhu began to leave his body during his final illness, his wife became restless. And she said, "Oh, a calamity, oh, I'm having this problem, oh, this is happening to me." And Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anhu, Allahu Akbar, he opened his eyes and in a state of jubilation he said, "Oh, my happiness, oh, my happiness." And the final words that he spoke were, "Tomorrow we shall meet our friend Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions." Allah, what great love that he had. What great love that he had, that when the angel of death was coming to him, he was happy. Happy because he knew that now he would meet his beloved. Now he would meet the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he stood by throughout his life, throughout the life of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he stood by him. And that was the love that he had, that he welcomed death with a smile, because he was realized that he was about to meet the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and meet the companions in paradise. And through his conduct, viewers of Madani Channel, Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu ta'ala has taught us the devotion of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the prerequisite in Islam, that we need to have this, whether we are traveling or not, whether during his lifetime or at the time of his death. In short, in every place and every situation, he made the love of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam the object of his life. And he also, viewers of Madani Channel, when he was in a position as well, when Islam became powerful, and he now was in a position to request the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to take revenge from those people that persecuted, those people, those children that probably now grown up, that dragged him through the streets, that threw rubbish on him, threw stones on him, those people that put stones on his chest. When he had an opportunity to take revenge, he didn't. And again, this is something that we need to realize, viewers of Madani Channel, of how we lived our lives. It is stated also, viewers of Madani Channel, that Sayyidina Urwa bin Zubair radiallahu ta'ala states that a female companion of Banu Najr said that in the vicinity of Masjid al-Nabi, my house was the highest, and Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu ta'ala, he would give the azan of Fajr from it. He would come in at the last part of the night there and sit on the roof of the house, waiting for the rise of Fajr. When he would see it, he would stretch his arms and he would make this dua. And the translation is, "O Allah Azza wa Jal, I praise you and I seek your assistance in the matter of the Quraysh, that they establish your religion." He would then call out the azan after this. And the female companion said, "By Allah, according to my knowledge, there was not a single night in which he did not make this dua." Allahu Akbar. From this, viewers of Madani Channel, we learn two things. Number one, if making the dua of the Quraysh before the azan is permissible, that he wasn't stopped, that he made this dua and the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was aware of it and he did not stop him. If making the dua for the Quraysh before the azan is permissible, and it is the sunnah of Sayyidina Hazrat Bilal radiallahu ta'ala, then making dua for the beloved Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, i.e. reciting salat upon the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam before the azan, without doubt is permissible. Because that is a dua and this is a dua. And we learn from this that giving Durood Pak, reciting salat upon the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam before the azan is permissible. And we also learn, viewers of Madani Channel, before giving the azan, Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anhu would make dua for himself and the tribe of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam every day. And when we make dua, viewers of Madani Channel, we should not only make it for ourselves. This is the important point, that we should not only make it for ourselves, but we should make it for all Muslims as well. That whenever you have an opportunity for the dua, you raise your hands, "Ya Allah, forgive my sins. Ya Allah Azza wa Jal, forgive my shortcomings." At the same time, "Ya Allah, forgive the sins of my parents. Forgive the sins of all of the ummah of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam." But don't be stingy with your dua. Raise your hands and do dua for everybody. Do dua for everybody that you know. If you can remember that by name, remember them by name and do dua for them. You know, when people say to you that when you go on Umrah, when you go on Hajj, do dua for me. Say to them, yes, if I remember your name, I'll do dua for you. But if you forgot when you get there, then say, Ya Allah, all those people that Ya Allah asked me to do dua for them, Ya Allah Azza wa Jal, accept the lawful duas. Ya Allah Azza wa Jal, forgive all the sins of the ummah of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ya Allah, do dua also for all of your past people that have passed away. Ya Allah Azza wa Jal, all of the Muslims that have passed away with Iman. Ya Allah Azza wa Jal, we ask you to forgive the sins that they have committed. Ya Allah Azza wa Jal, all of our family members, we ask you to forgive their sins. Do dua for as many people as possible. Don't just do dua for yourself. Do dua for as many people as possible. Allah Hazrat Imam al-Sunnat, Maulana Shah Imam Ahmad Raza Khan Rahmatullahi Ta'ala says, if the one making dua is not worthy of being bestowed upon himself, then he will attain his request by using the mediation of someone else. If the one making dua is not such that he has given anything, then he will achieve his wish through the means of a righteous person. And so again, getting righteous people to do duas for you. Sayyidina Abu Shaykh Absani narrates that the Prophet of Allah narrates the following from Sayyidina Sabit Bunani, that it was mentioned to us, whoever makes dua for well-being for the male and the female Muslims, then when he passes by their group on the day of judgment, a caller will say, he is the one who would make dua for the well-being of you in the world. Thus they will intercede for him and they will plead for him in the divine court and take him to paradise. Allahu Akbar. Just think, viewers of my channel, if you pray for all of the ummah, then on the day of judgment, when you are walking on the day of judgment, a call will be made out that this person made dua for all of you. This person made dua for all of you. And if they have the ability, they will intercede for you. Allahu Akbar. So make dua for everybody, viewers of my channel. And dua, viewers of my channel, it is a means of acquiring abundance of goodness of this world and the hereafter. It is a means of getting the proximity of Allah Azza wa Jal. It is a weapon of the moments, viewers of my channel, if only we do this. And regarding making dua for all of the Muslims, viewers of my channel, Allah Azza wa Jal says in part 26, verse 19 of Surah Muhammad, and I give you the translation. And O beloved, seek forgiveness for the sins of your special and common believing men and women. And the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam once heard someone saying, O Allah Azza wa Jal, forgive me. And he said to him, if you were to have included all of the Muslims in your dua, then your dua would have been accepted. Allahu Akbar. Viewers of Madani Channel, when you make dua, you know, I know it's going slightly off topic here, but we learned from the companions of the past, these people that were guaranteed paradise, the companions of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, without doubt are in paradise. These people, viewers of Madani Channel, that are in paradise now, they still made dua for all of us. They made dua for all of the ummah of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They made dua for them tribes of Quraysh. They made dua for everybody. So we should also get into a habit of making dua. You know, again, wouldn't it be great if we read our namaz 5 times a day and after every namaz we make dua? Let's go to the package of the day, inshallah, and when we come back, we'll continue talking about this topic. Sallu ala al-Habib, sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
The Islamic history is full of many stars, and all of them are so complete in their characters that if we choose any one of them as our role model and follow him in true sense of the word, it will be sufficient enough for our salvation in hereafter. They have set such beautiful examples for us in every walk of life that we do not need to look to others for guidance. One of such personalities is Hazrat Bilal radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Because he was from Abyssinia, he is also known as Bilal-e-Habashi radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Being a true and complete believer in every regard, he was embodiment of goodness, piety and steadfastness on the path of Allah Azza wa Jal. But his love for the beloved Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wasallam is the most mentioned aspect of his character. Hazrat Bilal radiallahu ta'ala anhu was one of the first fortunate ones who entered into the fold of Islam against all the odds. Although he had to face a lot of persecution, but it never weakened his faith. Before accepting Islam, he was a slave of a powerful Qurayshi chief, Umayyah. Umayyah would make him lie down on sand under the scorching sun of Arabian desert and place a boulder on his chest. This all was just because he believed in the oneness of Allah Azza wa Jal and rejected every sort of polytheism. He was whipped, humiliated, and in every way forced to shun Islam, but he never showed any weakness. in despite of all this torture, he would only utter the words, Allah is one and He alone is worthy of worship. After a while, when Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu bought him from his pagan master and released him, he joined the group of those companions who would stay at the doorstep of our beloved master and learn directly from the prophetic fountain. Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu would say, Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu is a chief and he has released our chief, that is Hazrat Bilal radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Later on, when Islam was established and Muslims were able to build a mosque, it was Hazrat Bilal radiallahu ta'ala anhu who was appointed as a muazzin, a man who calls for prayers. So in this way, he is the first muazzin of Islam. Once, at the time of Fajr Salah, the beloved Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wasallam asked Hazrat Bilal radiallahu ta'ala anhu, O Bilal, is there any action of yours which you are performing ever since you accepted Islam and hope that it will be accepted more than any other action of yours? Because I have heard the sound of your footsteps in Jannah. Hazrat Bilal radiallahu ta'ala anhu replied, I did not do any particular action about which I am more hopeful than other actions of mine. However, there is one thing: whenever, in day or night, I make wuzu, I must offer as 2 rak'ats of nafil salah. On this, the beloved Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wasallam said, this salah after wuzu is the reason that you have been granted entry into paradise. Dear viewers of Madani Channel, this hadith is enough to prove many controversial issues, and one of them is the knowledge of unseen. The beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam, by the mere grace of Allah Azza wa Jal, possesses the knowledge of unseen. That is why we see in the hadith that he sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wasallam knows that Hazrat Bilal radiallahu ta'ala anhu will enter paradise, and it will be because of one action of him. This hadith has another pearl of wisdom. Whenever we make wudu, we should perform at least 2 rak'ats with the intention of tahiyyatul wudu. This was the action of Hazrat Bilal radiallahu ta'ala anhu, because of which he would enter into paradise. For further information regarding the after wudu salah, that is tahiyyatul wudu, read the first volume of the book Bahar-e-Shariat. Another book in this regard is Laws of Salah, written by Amir Ahl Sunnat Damat Barakatumul Aliyah. You can download both these books from our website www.dawat-e-islami.net.
Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Viewers of Madani Channel, you're watching Arise and Shine, and as you gathered by now, we're talking about the great personality Sayyiduna Hazrat Bilal radiallahu ta'ala, the sacrifices that he made, and we've heard a little bit about his life story. But again, we need to be, like I said earlier, we need to be proud. Yes, viewers of the channel, we need to be proud that we have such a rich heritage that we need to be proud of. And this rich heritage needs to be passed on to our generations. We need to tell our children the stories of these people, make them aware of the sacrifices that they made so that they can be encouraged. They can be also encouraged to make similar sacrifices as well. Alhamdulillah, viewers of my channel, now we've got our guest of the day, mashallah, all the way from Malawi in Africa, mashallah, Usman Madani. He's blessed us many, many times on this program before, and inshallah, I'm hoping he's going to bless us today and many, many more times in the future as well. Usman bhai, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.
Usman bhai, mashallah, viewers of my channel, he's from Malawi. Usman bhai, just to let you know, a lot of people are contacting me, even during this program, people are contacting me regarding the work of Dawat Islami in that area, in Malawi, in Sierra Leone and all these places. So we're getting a lot of interest. So I hope the doors of the borders open soon so we can take all these people and bring them over there. There's a lot of people that wished now to travel in the Madani Qaflas to Africa. So inshallah, other than just seeing you on the screen, I'm hoping that I'll be able to do your proper ziyarat in the future, inshallah.
Inshallah, inshallah.
Basically, what we want to do on these programs on Rise and Shine is every week at least have one personality that we talk about so that our Muslims, and especially our youngsters, become aware of the rich heritage and become aware that these people are our true role models. These are the people that we need to aspire and look up to, and how fortunate we are. And I think that is something that's lacking within our Muslims, that we're not even aware of these role models. If you can give us some Madani pearls with regards to this particular role model and encourage people to follow in his footsteps.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Mursaleen. Alhamdulillah, this is the day or the silsila which is related to a great Sahabi, a companion of the Holy Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alaihi wasallam, Sayyiduna Bilal Habashi radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And as you said, that these are our role models, these are the personalities whom we should look up to. Every aspect of their life, everything which they did was according to Sharia, and the first and foremost thing which was in front of their eyes was the pleasure of Allah and His beloved Rasul sallallahu ta'ala alaihi wasallam. No matter what the circumstances would be, but they would always bring the pleasure of Allah and the pleasure of Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alaihi wasallam before anything else. Now, as we usually discuss as well, that every person, especially a youngster, a child, he looks up to someone. A child will look up to perhaps his father, or perhaps someone whom he likes, his teacher, or maybe someone whom he has seen on the television, maybe a sportsman or an actor or someone. So he will admire, try to copy him, and try to be like him. So we have to give this opportunity to our children, because from this event we learn that our children have the capacity that they can pick up good things. They will pick up good things. Whatever they hear of, whatever they are taught about, they will pick it up. That's why they do, heavy soccer tricks. We get shocked that how can you spin the ball from your shoulders underneath your feet back to the head, and we get shocked. So our children have that capacity. I will just mention one or two hikayat of Sayyiduna Bilal Habashi radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Hazrat Sayyiduna Amr bin As radiyallahu ta'ala anhu says that once I was passing from somewhere and I saw Hazrat Bilal Habashi radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. He was in custody of the enemies of Islam and he was being punished. It was on a very severe, hot ground. Hazrat Amr bin As radiyallahu ta'ala anhu says that it was so hot that if a raw piece of meat was kept there, it would be cooked. It was very hot. And he was being forced that leave the religion of Islam, leave the religion of Islam. And Hazrat Bilal Habshi radiyallahu ta'ala anhu was firm that I have accepted Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I have accepted the beautiful religion of Islam. I am not an idol worshipper. I will not worship idols. This was the steadfastness. This was the strong iman which they had in their heart, meaning at times it would be such that the enemies would tie him up and hand him over to the children, and the children would move around with Sayyidina Bilal Habshi radiallahu ta'ala anhu in the streets of the city. But Bilal Habshi radiallahu ta'ala anhu, under any punishment, under any such situation, he would always say Ahad, 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 one Allah, 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 Allah. That was the heart, that was the iman, that no matter what happens, I am a believer, I am the follower of Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alaihi wasallam. So this steadfastness is something which is needed. This steadfastness is something which will take us towards the footsteps of Sahaba Ikram and ultimately towards Jannah, inshallah. Regarding Jannah, we heard in the package, mashallah, that the footsteps of Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu ta'ala anhu were heard in Jannah. But why were they heard in Jannah? What was such which took Hazrat Bilal radiallahu ta'ala anhu in Jannah? So the riwayat mentions that Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam asked him that what is that action? So Sayyidina Bilal Habshi radiallahu ta'ala anhu says that whenever I give azan, before that I perform 2 rakat, meaning after wudu I perform 2 rakat, basically tahiyatul wudu, 2 rakat nafil, and then I perform adhan. And whenever my wudu breaks, so I'm not in a state of wudu, I do not delay. Instantly, I perform wudu. So Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam said, yes, that's the action which gave you such a high rank. So apparently small things. But these small things will add up, and inshallah azza wa jal, they will give us a good rank in the bargah of Allah and His beloved Rasul sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam.
But isn't it amazing, Usman, by that the likes of these great companions, that they were not just following the fard, but they were offering the extra nawafil as well. We heard when we were talking about the month of Muharram, that we heard that Imam Hussain radiallahu anhu would offer 1,000 nawafil every day. We got these great personalities. But isn't it sad that we come to a state now, Usman, by that, forget offering the Tahiyatul Wuzu, Chash, Ishraq, Awabeen, Tahajjud, Tahiyatul Masjid, all of these nawafil, Fajr, Zohar, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, we've lost them. As Muslims, we've lost that, never mind the nawafil. So we're talking about the benefits of nawafil, But unfortunately, as Muslims, we've gone past that, unfortunately. And rather than talking about the benefits of Nawafil and performing Nawafil, we don't even perform the 5 daily prayers. And that's how sad we've become. That's the state of society, Usman Bhai.
Has become a lip service issue that we speak more and we do less, unfortunately. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us ba'amal. The issue is that we have achieved Islam without any effort. We have been achieved Islam as a gift, alhamdulillah. This is a ni'mat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But those were the personalities who had attained Islam after so much of hard work, after so much of research, after so much of sacrifice. Therefore, they realized and they took care and valued each and every segment, each and every commandment of Sharia and Islam. But because we have, attained it very easily, so we do not value or we do not honor the essentials of Islam. So once we read the history, once we look at the sacrifices of our Sahaba Ikram, every Muharram, again and again, you listen to the Waqia Karbala. Have we ever thought that why do we listen to Waqia Karbala? You have heard it 10 times in your life already. The only reason is reminding one another that this is how Islam has come to you. It wasn't a piece of cake for them like it is for us. It was very difficult. It was a very phony journey. And that journey was for us so that we can enjoy the bounties of Islam in a state of freedom, in a state of where we are not facing these hardships. So when we recall these waqiyas, the waqiyah of Badr, the waqiyah of Karbala, the waqiyah of Uhud, many other events about Sayyiduna Bilal radiallahu ta'ala anhu, so we should remember that what they have done, we are not doing that. We are not facing that. So at least let's value what we have received as a gift from them, like the wirasat. We have inherited this beautiful religion without any effort. So inshallah azza wa jal, this will more or less, make our mind that inshallah we have to be punctual for our salahs. Imam Hussein, left this world in the state of sajda. He recited the Holy Quran even after the soul had apparently left the body. But we are not valuing that same Quran. We are not valuing that same sajda. We are not valuing that same salah. Another message, Khalid Bhai, I will like to give to the dear viewers of Madani Channel, that Sayyiduna Bilal Habashi radiallahu ta'ala, whose personality itself is a message of beauty of Islam. Because Sayyiduna Bilal Habashi radiallahu ta'ala anhu was a Habshi, was an Ethiopian, was an African. We do not say it, but just to make it more clear, he was a black person. In our istilah, we don't call any person who has a dark tone as black. We give him nisbat to Sayyidina Bilal Habshi. We say he's our Bilali Islamic brother. This is the mindset of Sayyidi Amir al-Sunnat. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserve him. So the message of beauty of Islam is such that he's an African man. He has a dark skin, a very dark skin, not even like how African skin is today. He was really dark. But Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam loved him. His footsteps were in Jannah. There are so many non-Arabs, but Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam tells an African to go on top of the Kaaba and give azan. What a beauty of Islam. No discrimination, no racism, no nationalism. This is Islam. How Islam is equal for you, that's how Islam is equal for me. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Beautiful Usman Bhai. May Allah Azza reward you, and may Allah enable our viewers to reflect and think about what you have said. Jazakallah Usman Bhai. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I've heard it many times of the incident of when Makkah was conquered and Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anhu was asked to go onto the roof of the Kaaba and give the azan. And just thinking about that scene that day, what a great day it was that the Muslims had conquered Makkah Sharif, and on that same day, Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anhu, he's given that elevated status. And as Usman Bhai said, he was an Ethiopian, he was a former slave, but he was given this great status of Islam. That out of all of the Arabs, out of all of the Muslims there, out of all the companions that were there, the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him, you go onto the Kaaba, you go onto the roof of the Kaaba and give the azan. Akbar. What a great status he had. Let's go to the kalam of the day, inshaAllah. I'm hoping that this will also give us a spiritual uplift, inshaAllah. And then after the kalam, we'll continue with this topic. Sallu ala al-Habib, sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
La ilaha
Viewers of my channel, we're coming towards the end of the program. There's so much that I want to mention regarding Sayyidina Hazrat Bilal radiallahu ta'ala. So we're going to try and progress as quickly as possible now. After the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam put a curtain between this world and the next world, it is stated that Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu ta'ala, he migrated from Medina and he settled in Syria in a place called Darya. And one night when he was asleep, he was blessed with the vision of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his dream. And in his dream, the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to him, "O Bilal, Why this distance? Has that time not come for you to visit me in Medina? Allahu Akbar. And the great lover of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he woke up from this dream, when he woke from this day in a state of grief, and he mounted his camel, his animal, and he set off in the direction of Medina. And when he entered, viewers of my channel, the beautiful atmosphere of Medina, he himself restlessly presented himself at the blessed shrine of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he said that tears began to flow from his eyes, and he began to rub his face on the blessed soil of the blessed shrine. And the companions, the people that were there, they requested him. They requested him that, can you give azan? Just give azan one, because he stopped giving azan. Can you give azan one more time, like you did when the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was with them? And he said, no, I cannot do it, I cannot do it. And then the grandsons, the two flowers of paradise, Imam Hassan and Imam Hussain radiallahu anhu, they came and they requested him. And he could not turn obviously down their request. And he said to them that you know, I cannot turn your request down. And they said to him, oh Bilal, we desire that you give the azan like you give the azan when our father was there. So Sayyiduna Bilal radiallahu anhu, viewers of Madani Channel, he attended the portion, he ascended to the portion of the roof of Masjid al-Nabawi, from which he would give the azan during the apparent life of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he began to give the azan. And when Sayyiduna Bilal began the azan with Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, it says that the residents of Medina became restless. And when he said the word Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, then people started to run out of their houses and come to the masjid and wondering what had happened. And when he said Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then people thought that maybe the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has come out of his grave. This voice, this sound of the azan, they'd never heard it before. They'd never heard it since the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had put a curtain between this world and the next. And it said, the viewers of Madani Channel, that after the physical demise of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that when the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed to put a curtain between this world and the next world, then the grief that was faced on that day was never faced since that time. That the whole city of Medina was in grief, that they remembered that time. You know, when someone close to you passes away and people talk about that person, you are filled with that grief. And they were filled with the grief of remembering the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam on that day. And can you imagine what it was like to hear the azan after such a long time, to remember the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and remember the words that were spoken when Sayyiduna Bilal radiallahu anhu was on the roof of the Masjid al-Nabawi. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself, with regards to Sayyidina Hazrat Bilal radiallahu anhu, he is again one of those fortunate Muslims, viewers of Madani Channel, that the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also mentioned him by name. He mentioned the companions generally, and he mentioned specific companions, but certain companions, they were mentioned by name by the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam once indicated towards Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anhu, and he said, on the day of judgment, he will ride a she-camel of paradise, and he will give the azan. And when he will say the words Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, all of the prophets and the nations will be looking towards Bilal. And after the prophets and the martyrs, Bilal will be the first to be clothed in the garment of paradise. And the beloved of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, on the day of judgment, Bilal will be riding such a camel whose saddle will be adorned with gold and rubies, and there will be a flag with him, and all the muazzins will be left behind the flag until it will admit them into the paradise. Even the one who gave azan for 40 days for the pleasure of Allah Azza wa Jal will also enter paradise. Viewers of Madani Channel, in that last hadith we hear about the virtues of the person who gives the azan. The action that Sayyidina Hazrat Bilal radiallahu ta'ala did, it is the virtue of him, the blessings of giving azan. There are many, many blessings in giving that. And we are told also that a person who gives the azan, his iman is protected as well. So these are good deeds that we need to race to perform. We need to try and learn how to do these things and perform these good deeds. Viewers of Madani Channel, today, on Rise and Shine, we've been learning about the great personality, the great lover of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We've just seen a glimpse into his life, the devotion that he had, the steadfastness that he had, the love that he had for the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the sacrifices that he made, and no matter what was happening to him. And as Osman Madani mentioned that time, that one waqia happened, that he was led down in the boiling heat. And the companion, the person that saw it, said it was so hot that day that if a piece of meat was laid down on the ground, Where Sayyiduna Hazrat Bilal radiallahu anhu was lying dead, that meat would have roasted, it would have cooked, it was that hot that day. The pain that he endured, the suffering that he endured. And if you look, viewers of the channel, our rich heritage, if you look at these personalities of the past, if you look at the great pious people of the past, if you look at the companions of the past, that these people, the sacrifices that they made, the struggle and strife that they made. And one thought always comes to my mind, viewers of the channel, when we hear about these people, that they were people. They were human beings like me and you. They had needs, they had wants, they had bodies to clothe, they had stomachs to feed, they had families, they had children, they had all of these things. But all of these things were secondary. The deen was the foremost in their life. The deen was the priority in their life. And today we make 1,000,001 excuses for not performing our salah. And if we think about it, viewers of the channel, we need to be ashamed of ourselves. We need to be ashamed of ourselves that these great people, they never missed their salah. They went the extra mile. They did so much. They sacrificed so much for the deen of Islam. And we can't even read our namaz 5 times a day. We can't even fast during the month of Ramadan. We can't pay the zakat. Allah Azza wa Jalla has blessed us with enough wealth and we cannot perform the hajj. We should be ashamed of ourselves. Viewers of the channel, you've been watching Rise and Shine, and today we've been talking about the great personality Sayyiduna Hazrat Bilal radiallahu anhu, and I hope that we learn something from his life and we can implement it in our life. Tell these stories to our children so that these great personalities become their role models. Keep watching Madani Channel. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam.
By the grace of Allah, by the grace of Allah, even the darkest night will end, and the sun will rise and shine. Even the darkest night will end, and the sun will rise and shine, and the sun will rise and shine.